Inventory is one of the most expensive assets for many companies, representing close to 50% of invested capital. For manufacturers, inventory is categorized by type: raw materials, such as wood or aluminum; work in process, such as partially completed products on the factory floor; and finished goods. The challenge is to maintain just enough inventory to meet current requirements, while at the same time minimizing the costs associated with maintaining inventory levels. Wheeled Coach Industries of Winter Park, Florida uses a number of inventory management policies. The company has close to 7,000 parts or stock-keeping units supplied by vendors that are needed to manufacture the company's product, custom-made ambulances.
As a custom manufacturer of emergency vehicles, every one of our products is different. Obviously, that's going to put a great deal of demands on our material planning processes. That material planning and maintaining proper levels of inventory throughout the fiscal year. That's quite challenging. If it was a standardized product, obviously it would have a definition to it. We would know the product, know the components. With a custom shop, those variables are different from day to day, and planning for those variables becomes quite challenging. In an assembly line process like we have at Wheel Coach, having the part at the line station on the proper day, planning that part being there in that proper station each day is quite critical, and obviously is quite a challenge.
As part of the company's inventory management, Wheel Coach uses a technique called cycle counting.
Cycle counting is quite critical in our material planning process. With cycle counting, we're able to update our quantities on hand, which is very, very important in making sure that our requirements are accurate. Also, with cycle counts, it alleviates any surprises you may have during the course of a quarter or a year to make sure that your on-hand quantities are accurate. You don't want to get into an inventory, be that a quarterly inventory or an annual inventory, and then find out perhaps the on-hand balances on your perpetual inventory are inaccurate.
Some examples of Wheeled Coach's A-class inventory include truck chassis, aluminum, and plywood. Although the number of items is small, the annual dollar volume for these items is quite high.
We've taken our inventory and categorized our inventory at different levels, and we determine for each level what would be the adequate cycle time for that cycle inventory. Those A items obviously would be treated differently than maybe perhaps a B item would be. A item here is cycle counted on a weekly basis. And then we use that quantity not only to help update our perpetuals, but also we use that to help our purchasing, determine when to reorder. B items are of lesser value. We use a monthly cycle.
Inventory in the B class consists of medium-cost items such as electrical wiring, upholstery for seats, and plexiglass for cabinets. These items have a lower dollar value than the A-class items, but are still valuable enough to warrant careful management. The C-class of inventory is largest in units, but represents a small amount of total inventory cost. Items in this class consist of nuts, bolts, and rivets.
We assign areas in our inventory or our stockroom to individuals that work the stockroom. They're responsible for a certain category of items, and certainly we feel they take ownership for those items. They become responsible for going back and cycle counting those. Obviously in the warehouse and a B item, that would be on a monthly basis. We then come back and record any discrepancies in the counts in comparison to our perpetual. We have an approval process. Obviously we don't let just anybody go back and change perpetuals, but we certainly go through a review process to determine why there was a miscount or perhaps why the perpetual was inaccurate. Then we go ahead and change the on-hand balances in the system based on that cycle count.
At Wheeled Coach, inventory items are pulled from stock just in time for use in manufacturing. No intermediate levels of inventory are kept on the assembly floor. Sub-assembly areas such as upholstery and carpentry focus on creating the items necessary for the next day's production levels. Some items, such as these cabinets, take more than one day to create, but no carpentry, seating, or wiring is made for stock.
A just-in-time system in any manufacturing plant is very, very important. Number one, inventory costs money. By eliminating inventory on the plant floor, or for that matter in your warehouse, you save money. We have worked with our vendors quite diligently in the last few years to reduce our on-hand balances, not only on purchased items, but also in manufactured items manufactured within Wheel Coach. You come into our plant, you see very, very little work in process, and that's by design. Most of our systems were put in place to save money, both in on-hand inventory turns. We would expect to spend another 30 to 35% more in inventory if it weren't for these systems that we have in place today at Wheel Coach.